Hi! So last year I started doing a review thing on this channel and failed miserably. Got really busy, went traipsing off to Europe for a few weeks, which I have a habit of, and then got back and fell into several jobs. Seriously, I didn't know which end was up. Throughout the summer, just kept getting paid for things, which is good because I need money. Yeah, so last year I tried doing this. I think I pushed out a couple of reviews, and then stopped. I did try to start back up, but my camera was hurt. I've decided to start afresh here in 2015. So far, I have read 5 books this month. Applause! Applause for me! Yay! I don't know how I've squeezed in all that time, probably just because between my 2 jobs, it's been a bit of a slow season. So before we start picking up, I think I'm going to start the ball rolling, and we'll start with the very first book that I read this year, which is not the most exciting book and probably a little morbid, just a bit of a read for curiosity's sake and a little bit of research for something that I'm writing at the moment. I read The Most Evil Men and Women in History by Miranda Twiss. I read this for a little bit of research for a piece that I'm writing, a little bit of background information on some evil people who have lived throughout history. This book summarizes basically 15 to 16 of the worst people that have walked this earth and wielded a lot of power, and a necessary amount of power for what they ended up using it for. Basically starting with Caligula. Unfortunately, there were about 6 from our current century, past 100 years, which is terrifying and not okay. So this was basically a 10 or 15-paged summary of each person from their childhood up until their ultimate demise. I would have preferred a little more background information about their childhoods. I understand that a lot of them lived in times where records weren't kept. Some people, like Rasputin, came from basic obscurity in order to really destroy the countries that they lived in. Unfortunately, that kind of detail wasn't there. If it was, there was, a brief mention of Caligula growing up in Rome and basically watching everybody he knew slaughtered. Same goes with Nero. I've done a little bit of research on people like Adolf Hitler for projects in high school, and even I knew more about him than was mentioned about his childhood and that sort of thing. The Holocaust was mentioned for sure, but just sort of, and then millions of people died. It wasn't as detailed as maybe it should have been. I know it sounds a little sadistic to have hoped a little more for their grisly actions to have been described, but it was very impersonal. You didn't really get to empathize with their victims. There was just, and then they murdered 1 million people, or then they starved 1 million people. Like, I would have preferred more detail based on dignity for the dead. I don't know, it just sort of skimmed the surface of each of their lives, and I know that you can't really get that much into 10 to 15 pages, but I would have kept reading had there been more detail for each of their lives, a little more background information, a little more, what drove them. I understand that some people are just evil, but not everybody is. There's got to be a breaking point in some of their lives that snapped them into this, and really it wasn't there. A little bit of background information on Vlad the Impaler, raised in the captivity of the Turks, but ultimately wasn't the best. On a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably go with 6 cucumbers as a rating. Just, I don't even know what that means, but that's how I felt about it. Just, And keep reading, and I hope to see you soon.